joining me now, the big cheese, the chair of the House Judiciary Committee, Congressman Jim Jordan. Okay, Congressman, I'm sure Joe Biden is not jumping for joy. In fact, I'm sure Joe Biden hasn't actually jumped for anything in years. But it does look bad. I mean, the evidence you all have uncovered does look really bad. What's an impeachment inquiry? How's that different than an impeachment?
Well, an inquiry is you're still gathering the information, but the courts have long recognized if you're in that, what the speaker has declared, that phase of oversight, that the courts are more likely when you get into the inevitable disputes with the executive branch over documents you need, information you've subpoenaed, or people you need to depose. They tend to want to side with the House of Representatives because this is a power that's exclusively in the House, in the Constitution, the impeachment authority that we have under our system of government. So that's why I think it's important. And again, as you point out, Jesse, the facts certainly warrant going to this phase. 10% for the big guy. Multiple people have said the big guy, of course, was Joe Biden. 50% for Pops, that other email. The brand, Devin Archer, Hunter Biden's business partner, says the brand was Joe Biden. 5,000 emails where Joe Biden uses an alias during his time as vice president. The WhatsApp message, the shakedown in the WhatsApp message. Multiple companies that paid multiple Biden family members all kinds of money. Multiple times the White House has changed their story. Dinners, phone calls, meetings that Joe Biden had with Hunter Biden's business partners and with people doing business with his son. If that doesn't warrant an investigation, I don't know what does. So that's why I think the speaker took the position he did and why we're in this phase of our oversight.
Yeah, Congressman, one thing that drives me crazy is how people say it's Hunter Biden's business. Joe was involved in Hunter's business. He's involved in Hunter's business. Hunter doesn't have a business. Hunter's a 50-some-year-old crackhead with no qualifications whatsoever. Joe has a business. Hunter was involved in Joe's business, not the other way around.
And Hunter Biden's business partner, Devin Archer, whatever that business was, confirmed what you just said when he said what they were selling was the brand itself, the brand being the vice president of the United States. And then you have the most compelling evidence. You have the 1023 form that was validated. What the confidential human source said in the 1023 form was validated by the actions we saw in December of 2015. December 4th, Hunter Biden, Devin Archer in Dubai with the heads of Burisma, the guys who run that company. In that meeting, they said, we need the pressure taken off of us, the pressure from Mr. Shokin, the Ukrainian prosecutor, and others. We need that taken off of us. There's a phone call made to D.C. Mr. Archer said, I don't know who it was, but it called D.C. I had stepped away for a few minutes. They called D.C. We all know who that was. So they called D.C. 5 days later. Joe Biden goes to Ukraine, gives the speech where he started the process to fire the prosecutor who was applying the pressure to Burisma. It took all of 5 days. And you had that validated. So that action validated what was said by the confidential human source in the 1023 form that the Justice Department tried to keep from us. And that's the final step in this, Jesse. You got all that list of facts I just went through. Then you have the actions, the unorthodox, I guess to be kind, actions we have seen from the Department of Justice and David Weiss and how they've handled this entire investigation.
Certainly, unorthodox, to put it mildly. Congressman, conceptually, and I realize this is just a conceptual question, how do you handle the impeachment of all these people who have frankly gone way out of line with their role? You can't impeach everybody. I'm not naive. I'm not stupid. You can't spend every waking minute impeaching Biden and impeaching Mayorkas and impeaching Merrick Garland. But Merrick Garland definitely warrants it. Mayorkas definitely warrants it. And they were ready to impeach him before you guys even took the House. How are you supposed to handle that? You can't impeach a new person every day. What do you do?
Right. I think you focus where we're focused now. You focus on the guy who heads the executive branch, and you go to this phase of our oversight, and you get the facts out there. And when we're doing that, we're inevitably going to get more facts about how the Justice Department operates. I mean, I think that's for sure. But you just do your work, put the facts out there. You're right. You can't do it. I think there's only been one other time in history where a cabinet level official was impeached. It was clear back to the Treasury Secretary in the Harding administration. So that doesn't happen often. Unfortunately, we see this happening more and more with the president. I don't know that that's a good thing. But for me and for, I think, House Republicans and for the House of Representatives, it should always be driven by facts, by evidence, and by the Constitution. And I think that's why Speaker McCarthy has made that decision, because he's focused on the facts, the evidence, and the Constitution when it comes to the activity of President Biden.
Switching gears a little bit here, we have this appropriations process coming up, and I'm positive that your office has heard the same things I hear all the daggone time. People are worried about what happened in December. In December, lame duck Congress, Republicans join with Democrats, cram through everything they want, and say, well, it's just a temporary fix. And they're worried we're going to get another one of these here in a couple weeks. Are we?
Well, I hope we don't get to that big kind of omnibus package at the end of the calendar year. You know, you do some like temporary government funding until like, you know, Christmas Eve, and then you put together some ugly piece of legislation that spends money on all kinds of crazy things. We want to avoid that. That's what I voted against last year. So I think the smart move, frankly, is to execute the play that we put in motion back during the debt ceiling agreement and says, let's pass the CR to early next year, sometime in March, not one till December, like March 1st, say, because on January 1st, if we're in a continuing resolution, there's an automatic across the board 1% cut that kicks in. It'd be one of the few times we've actually totally, you know, reduced discretionary spending in this capital. So I would be for that. Send it over there and say, all right, Chuck Schumer, you agreed to this back in a few months ago in the debt ceiling agreement. All right, we're going to send that over. Here's a CR to March, and now we can fight for the policies that we think make sense, things we want to do different with your tax dollars at the FBI, as an example, things we want to do at the Department of Homeland Security and say you can't use any money to set up a disinformation governance board, and number of policy riders that get attached. I think we have a better chance of getting those if there's this threat of a real cut happening on January 1st. So I would look for a strategy like that. If it's some short-term CR, then I'd put on one good policy and send it to the Senate and dare them to not accept that. Okay, we're not going to release any new migrants into the country. We'll send you a short-term funding bill for a few weeks while we're working things out. But one of the policies we want is quit releasing these migrants. After all, you got the mayor of New York talking about that issue.
No, I know, and I like the focus on one issue for sure, because it allows you to get some kind of a win. What do we do about these three-letter agencies in the meantime? I'm not naive. I know you can't defund the whole federal government with an appropriations thing. I understand that, but the FBI colluding with the CDC to censor people on social media. There's a report out today from a whistleblower. The CIA is paying its own people to lie about the origins of COVID. We have a federal government that is out of control, is putting it mildly. How in the world do we begin addressing that?
Well, it's starting to happen. The IRS announced 7 weeks ago they will no longer make unannounced visits to people's homes. I think that's a direct result of the information we brought forward regarding Matt Taibbi, who was, while he's testifying, gets the knock on the door from the IRS as a total intimidation action. So I think that's why they did that. Then you have other things that are happening, like the big decision we got the Fifth Circuit last week that validated almost everything the federal court said there in the Western District of Louisiana on this censorship effort by these three-letter agencies you point out. So we are making some progress there, and we're doing that simply as the House of Representatives, you know, 1/2 or 1/3 of the government, but by a 5-vote majority, and yet we're getting this information to the American people, and I think it is having an impact. Imagine what we can do if we get the White House and win back the Senate. So I do think we're making progress, but you're right, it's coming from every angle. And this CIA thing is, you got to be first. They're censoring you if you say anything against the COVID thought process of the Biden administration. Then you find out they're not only starting to censor you, they're paying people to say things that are, I don't know if this is accurate or not, what the whistleblower said, but if it is, it's pretty darn scary.
File this one under, I hope they're lying. I hope the whistleblower is lying. That file is getting awfully thick. Congressman, thank you so much. Go get them.
You bet. You too, Jesse. Thanks.